Hello everyone. In my previous lecture, I introduced and little bit talked about Danish invasion, the people of Denmark. In other words, we also call them Viking. So Viking first settled in the northern part of France and later they invaded over England. Remember, I talked about the Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror. He attacked over England and claimed the throne of England. He defeated the last Anglo-Saxon king. His name was Harold at Hastings. So the year was 1066. It was a Christmas day, right? In 1066, when he invaded England and defeated the last Anglo-Saxon king. Thus, he became the ruler of England. So, this was the beginning of French influence or Danish invasion over England. So, this was also the beginning of Middle Ages, which begin in 1066 when William the Conqueror becomes the king of England, and it continued till 1485. So we will cover almost 400 years in this lecture. Okay, all the happenings, all the events, literary history, battles, development, church influence, monarchy, parliament, Magna Carta. So lot of happenings are there. 100 Years War and the War of Roses, etc. So lot of happenings. So keep watching and enjoy today's lecture. It will be very, very interesting. You will know all about this Middle Ages in this lecture. Let's begin and discuss in detail. So the Normans, we are talking about the people of the France, northern France, Normandy. The Normans originally Viking, because I told that the Vikings, right, who came from the northern part, okay, from the Denmark, they settled in France, and from France they also settled in England. So the Normans originally Viking, Normans were originally Viking. Viking raiders settled in France and adopted French customs, right? So these people, Viking, who came from Denmark, from the northern part, right? We also call them Norsemen. They settled in France and adopted French cultures and traditions. Now, William the Conqueror, who was the Duke of Normandy, took over England. He introduced these customs starting the medieval period. So William Conqueror, he also introduced these customs. Which customs? French customs and tradition in England. And it was the beginning of Middle Ages. So one of his biggest changes was feudalism. So it was Norseman, okay? Or it was William the Duke who introduced feudalism in England, because feudalism was already practicing in France, right? So he also brought this feudalism to England, a system where the king owned all the land. So in feudalism, all the land belongs to the king. And then the king, he keeps some of the land with himself, and the rest of the land he distributes among the loyal nobles. And in return, these loyal nobles, in return, they provide money and military to the king, right? So then these loyal nobles distribute some of the land. These noble keep themselves, and the rest of the land these nobles distribute among lesser noble. And then some of the land, then the lesser noble, they keep themselves, while the rest of they distribute among the knights. Similarly, the knights, some of the land they keep themselves, the knights, and then the rest of they distribute among the barons, and then go on. So this was like the feudal system. So at the bottom we can see serf. Okay, we can also call them that like farmers, and they were at the bottom all the day. They worked hard, serf, and they had limited and almost no right. So Anglo-Saxon, they became the serf, okay, when the French invaded England. So we can see that William the King, he introduced feudalism, a system where the king owned all the land and distributed it to the loyal nobles in exchange for money or military support. These loyal nobles will provide military support and wealth to the king, right? So this was like a hierarchy from the king to the lesser noble and the knights, right? Now, at the bottom of society were the Anglo-Saxon. Once, right, they were the rulers. Now they were at the bottom of the society, and they became serfs. Like they would just grow lands to these nobles, to the lesser noble, to the knights, to the nobles, and to the king. So they were at the bottom. These serfs, in simple words, we call them farmers, who had to work the land but couldn't own. So these serfs, they did not own the land. They just work in these lands. They will just produce agriculture, right? The crops for the king, for the nobles, and for the churchman, for the pope, for the priest, for these all. So they were at the bottom. To maintain control, Norman barons, okay, we could call them lesser noble, built strong castles across England. So in order to control these serf, okay, or these ordinary people, these Norman barons, they did what? They built strong castles and they would live there, right? So you see, these baron, these lesser noble, the knights, the courtman, the churchman, the pope, the priest, the archbishop, the monk, the prioress. So these all people were enjoying their life, which were very limited. Okay, they were in number. While the rest of the people, the serf, they had to work day and night in the lands, right, to feed them, to provide them money, and to provide them crops and food. So this was the whole system, feudalism, which was brought by William the Conqueror or the French, the Norseman, to England. Now, after William's death, power struggle broke out when his son Henry I died in 1135. So the son of William the Conqueror was Henry I. When Henry I died in 1135, there was a power struggle, right? So a violent conflict erupted between his daughters Metadilla and nephew Stephen. So Metadilla or Metadilla was the daughter of Henry I, and his nephew was Stephen. So there was like a war between these two people. Meletida, who was the daughter of Henry I, and nephew Stephen, right? After the death of Henry I, who was the son of William the Conqueror. So the chaos ended in 1154 when Metadilla's son Henry II became the king. So this conflict ended when Metadilla's sons, right, or the grandson of Henry I, Henry II became the king. He was a strong ruler who transformed or who reformed the legal system, introduced royal courts, and helped shape English common laws. So he was the man, Henry II, who introduced legal system, who introduced royal courts, and he helped shape English common laws. His wife name was Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine brought the French ideas of chivalry. So the idea of chivalry, bravery, was brought by Henry the second wife, and the name was Eleanor. Right, this idea she brought from France to England, which encouraged knights to protect women and go on religious quests like the crusade. So because they would tell these knights that you one of the features of you people is chivalry. You have to protect the women and you have to fight for your land. So this would encourage, this chivalry act would encourage the knights in Middle Ages. So this idea was also brought from France to England by Henry the second wife Eleanor. Now some more development. Henry's son, Henry the second son name was Richard the Lionheart. You might heard his name, who fight against Salahuddin Ayyubi, right? A Muslim ruler. So Richard the Lionheart spent most of his reign fighting in crusade, right? And most of his reign where he was ruling, so he fought in crusade and defending English lands in France. But because the England also owned some land in France, so he was defending English land in France. Who? Richard, who was the son of Henry II. He had got the title of Lion the Heart. Right? In France, he was the king of England. He was the son of the Henry II. So his brother John plotted against him when he was in France. So when Richard died, John became king. After the death of Richard the Lionheart, his brother John became the king, but faced many problems. John. Meanwhile, Henry II had also clashed with the church. While this time, okay, Henry II, we can say that the father, we can see here, the father of John, meanwhile, Henry II had also clashed with the church, with the Roman Catholic Church. How? What kind of clash was there? Actually, that Henry II, right, he appointed his friend Thomas Becket. So Thomas Becket was a religious name, right? And he appointed Thomas Becket as Archbishop of Canterbury, right, which was a large town city in England. But when Becket sided with the church over the king, angry words led to the knights murdering Becket. It is said that Becket was the friend, okay, of Henry II. But he nominated him as Archbishop of Canterbury. But when there was a struggle or clash between the monarchy and the church, so this Thomas A. Becket, he sided, okay, or he favored the church. This made Henry II angry, and he sent four of his best knights to kill him. While he was in his monastery, we're talking about Thomas A. Becket, these four knights went and murdered him. Who? Thomas A. Becket. Now, Henry later made peace with the church, and Becket was declared a saint. Now, with his shrines in Canterbury became a major pilgrimage site. So it was Henry that after his death he declared him a saint, okay, and this Canterbury became one of the famous site for pilgrims. And we can see in Canterbury Tales, okay, a lot of pilgrims, they were going to Canterbury to perform their pilgrim, right? Now, development of the English language. The Norman conquest brought big changes to the English language. By 1066, the Norseman spoke a type of Old French, which became the language of the royal court, government, and nobility. So these people, Old French was spoken by the royal court, the government, and the nobility. And still, lot of common people, they spoke English, right? That was known as Old English. And the Latin was the language of the church that time. It was also used by the scholars, what? French, by the cooks and the skilled worker who served the Norman rulers. Meanwhile, English was mostly spoken by the common people, as I told you. Over time, English absorbed thousands of French words and grammar rules. This mix of language led to the development of Middle English, which was much closer to modern English than Old English had been. So now the Old English disappeared. Now we have Middle English. What is Middle English? That was the amalgamation of Old English and French words. So when thousands of French words were absorbed in Old English language, it shaped a new look of the Middle English, which looked like a modern English rather